Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hi, Clay. How are you?
How are you?
I'm doing really well. Nice to meet all of you.
Thank you.
We're honored to have you here. Thank you
Oh,
for
that's great.
giving us a bit of your time.
No, I'm happy. I'm happy to do it. Look at you, surrounded by swag there. Awesome.
Books, Funkos, and a small,
Look at
a
that
small
one.
book.
I actually like that one better without the dust jacket on it, without the paper.
Yeah,
It's cooler. That's how I have it in my house.
It's it's so beautiful. How are you?
Yeah, doing really well. My dad perfectly timed called just as I logged in here.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
sorry.
He's getting. We're gonna shove my dad aside and.
We're going to feel guilty for this whole interview.
Not at all.
So, Clay, we're the Minutemen. We're Watchmen related. Yeah, we're called the Minutemen, and we wanted to talk with you about a bit of your work, your journey in art, in photography, working with Zack, and some stuff like this. So I had the pleasure to start. So yeah, I wanted to ask you something about maybe the first approach many fans had with your work and you specifically as a person, because for the last three to 4 years, your pics were all around the internet with a little hashtag on top, release was not. I don't know if you heard about it. with this hashtag, and I think that your pictures that were already everywhere in the world became even more important in the online discourse. And so I wanted to ask you, how did you feel about seeing your work and thrown around so much with the hashtag, and now with restore the Snyderverse, it's happening, the same thing is happening. How did you feel about it?
Well, I mean, I'm as a photographer, I think one of the ways you could validate your work is when it gets used in any, to enhance a message, right? Sometimes it would be because the photographer as artist has a message that they want to convey. But for much of my work, I'm quite accustomed to it being made and then sort of going in service of, say, the marketing, right? To sell a film. To watch it then get picked up and become part of the rallying cry for the Snyder Cut certainly was, I was on the side of the Snyder Cut, right? But let's just, imagine for a minute, maybe I was a long time still photographer of Joss Whedon, and to watch the images get co-opted and used against the director I often worked for, you would probably even then just realize that you sign a work for hire contract and off it goes. So I'm quite content that my images get used, and actually the more fun is watching them get used and sort of interpreted and mashed up, and artists from all over the world pick up the images and integrate them. So I like being a piece of a creative chain. And so let's go. And again, I was in complete agreement with the release of the Snyder Cut movement. Might have even been feeding it here and there. So in the end, I felt good about it. But more importantly, I just think it's really fun to make images that people get inspired by across the board, right? It doesn't have to be for a cause. It could just be that something they then tattoo on themselves or whatever, or that it just embodies this hero that they've had in their minds, or it's only been on comic book pages and now it's embodied in Ben Affleck, or in Ben Affleck's portrayal of Batman. That's pretty cool. It's fun to do, and it's obviously, I'm completely lucky that I've gotten to make a bunch of those images.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I love how you were talking about people reinterpreting your art. In sometimes with fun posters and other times with Zack attack images or memes. It's it's so beautiful. I think that your pictures are so beautiful and so inspiring that they're so well usable for so many aspects. So yeah, thank you for always sharing stuff, and thank you for helping with helping a lot.
Man, you're very welcome, but it is just my job, right? I've just got lucky that I make images or I made a bunch of images that were part of the DC universe. The DC universe is near and dear to your hearts, and off we go, right? I do think that my particular kind of photography, especially the portraiture on the white backgrounds, lends itself towards let's say interpretation, right? Because people can then take that stuff and run with it. So it makes me happy. Anyway, and I'm super delighted that I get to share that excitement. I could see it on your faces, hear it in your voice.
Okay. Hi, Clay. My name is Davide, and thank you to you. Thank you for your wife, Christine. She is very kind and sweet.
Agreed.
She make possible this interview. So, so my question is, when was the first time you took a camera in your hand? The first time.
Yeah, I guess.
Big question.
No, it's a nice question. I think that my family, my grandfather had been a kind of a filmmaker, doing more kind of commercial things back in the day, more like an industrial, we called them industrials, or today just like a freelance videographer, right? That the equivalent, doing things for airlines or for marketing stuff for frozen vegetables or things. So, and because of that, he then had movie cameras that home movies were getting made. And so my first experience was probably picking up some sort of, 16 millimeter camera and making a couple little frames, at a birthday party. But going to their house, to my grandparents' house, and watching home movies and threading the projector sort of, I think, to me, planted the seed that image making wasn't the domain of others, that it was something in the family, something you did. I didn't realize that everybody didn't have a camera. I was that small. And then, of course, I'm of an age that the little home video cameras started to emerge. And so I think me and a couple of my buddies, we had a little VHS projector, or whatever, the camcorder they called it, and we were making movies in the backyard, jumping off ladders onto mattresses, thinking we were stuntmen. And then I think my first still camera then was in high school. I took a class my senior year. I wasn't much of an academic student, so I was pursuing all of the arts that were available at my high school, photography being one of them. And so that really holding and sort of having that taste of photography is what then sort of set me on the vector that I've been on ever since. So that's to distill it, that image making wasn't the domain of others. It was a family thing, and then it was made accessible through technological advancement that I just happened to be riding and fit in, and here we are. Now I'm a photographer. Crazy. It still freaks me out when I say I'm on an airplane and when you cross international borders, they want to know your profession. And to write photographer is such a delight.
Thank you.
And my name is Francesco. I want thanks again for this opportunity. And my question is, why did you decide to do this job?
Well, to do the job of a unit photographer was sort of, it came after some other struggles, so to speak, artistic struggles. But I wasn't, as I said, I wasn't much of a student in high school, and college was probably a lot of the same. But by then I had chosen to be what they call a Bachelor of Fine Arts in film, photography, and visual arts. And so I finished university. I'm a photographer, a filmmaker, and of course there's no work. the world isn't just going to open its arms to a college graduate who thinks he knows everything and isn't very good. But the world also, again, sort of changed on us. The World Wide Web was invented, and I found myself, Photoshop was invented, and I found myself dabbling and following those paths to great satisfaction artistically and creatively, but also it just was this extension of the university, right? I was ready to learn, and the world was changing fast. And it wasn't until the dot-com boom happened that I was sufficiently financially sound, to take some risks. And I went and shared in a photography portrait project on the streets of New York with another photographer for almost 2 years, where we were just artists. We were making portraits of random people, and fell in love with the idea that I could be an artist and a photographer, not just maybe someone who knew Photoshop, or who could make images and manipulate them through Photoshop and put them on the web. Of course, the dot-com boom was somewhat short-lived, and I was back to work. But I knew then what I wanted to do. Chasing riches wasn't just going to be as satisfying as being a photographer, and that was really the gift, because in any choices in life, you're always sort of weighing it against some sort of financial, reality. We can't go just do anything we want at any time. And having been rich and losing it sort of allowed me the freedom to not wanting to have to be rich, but to be a photographer was doable, and I could do it with a bare minimum of money and eke it out. Now, of course, I was single, I had no kids. There were some other things that were in my favor, but that is when I kind of knew. While I had studied it 10 years prior, almost 10 years prior, it wasn't until I had tasted it, done it, and realized I could be free in it that my path was some more cemented. That's a hard answer, or it's a complicated answer, but
no, perfect.
It's amazing.
Okay, cool. Perfect. And Davide, and I don't mean to, I also, just back to Davide, my wife is awesome. You're absolutely right, and I am appreciative of everything she does all the time. We should all be that way. With all the people around us, gratitude is a paramount trait, I think, in humanity, and maybe underrepresented. Okay, off my high horse.
Well, yeah, we are a lucky guy, because also my wife is amazing. So
My fiance as well.
There we go. Love fest.
Wait, first of all, I forgot to mention my name, I think, because I was, my name is Max. Nice to meet you. And yeah, I wanted to ask you another question, but hearing you talk about your journey as a photographer made me wonder, what's your philosophy behind your craft, your art? What's your drive? What makes you pick up the camera and say, yeah, let's shoot this in this way and this in that way? Let us see these images through your eye.
Gosh, it's hard to say if I could distill it into one thing, because there are times when my concern is just, sort of satisfy the client's needs, right? Do the right thing by the person paying you, right? Because that leads to more work. But in that means that it might be technically proficient, right? You want it to be beautiful, you want it to be useful, you want it to be compelling, right? So those things are always swirling, whether it's client work or personal, right? What is it that makes me pull out my iPhone, to make a photograph when there is no client? It's probably because there's something juxtaposing or interesting to me. I find it attractive, and that doesn't necessarily mean by sort of classical beautiful senses, but it syncs with my quirky way of looking at the world, right? I'm so yeah, I have a tendency towards sort of beautiful, sort of strong images. What, you know, like in focus, you know, but it doesn't, it's not to say that an out of focus image isn't also interesting. I like my images to be to have a little emotional resonance, or I like them to have, they have a kind of interpretive quality, right? So that it's not all just about me giving my opinion through the photograph, but to allow for people to find something in it that resonates with them. I'm not very ego driven in that sense. I'm not terribly concerned with the preciousness of every image. I make a lot of photographs. The act of photography has been for me a reason to sort of see the world and meet people. And that has value. And I see the value coming my way through being a photographer. And I'm less tied up with all of the pictures I've made, right? So, and whereas I think other people, if you're coming from a very fine art, precious thing, you're going to make these beautiful prints and you're going to do limited editions. And I just don't have it in me. I'm not that organized. And I'm more interested in what's ahead and using photography to explore and interpret and share. So I don't know if that's a philosophy so much as what's just happened and what's going to probably keep happening. So yeah, that's it. That's art in a nutshell. If I had been maybe a better painter, maybe I would be more obliged to treat the painting as precious. But because photography is this kind of, now especially digital, is this just bunch of data that can be duplicated and it's shared, you know, first look, Wonder Woman, boom, everywhere. Yeah. How could I possibly be attached to that, right? It's more fun to know that when I get in a taxi cab and someone's like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a photographer, I work on movies. What do you mean? I'm like, have you seen a picture of Wonder Woman? They're like, yeah. Like, I took that. Somebody like me, you know, is working on all those movie sets. And that's more fun, right? It's a way to connect with the world in real time, in 3 dimensions. And that's how it's been. Maybe as I get older, this is a long answer, sorry guys, but maybe as I get older,
Keep going.
I will be more inclined towards the precious. And maybe I'm going to start making some sort of fine art. You know, maybe as my legs fail me and I can't adventure, then maybe I'll transition into doing like limited edition fancy photographs and I'll be an artist. But who knows?
Oh, we are free future artists. I'm a screenwriter. Francesco. Editors.
I like to draw. So, and I studied photography as well. So
yeah. Look, I mean, you know, then here we are, right? All of us artists. And I think that this is the great hope I have for the future, that all of us, while we may not have careers in it, we don't squander those impulses. To me, the muses and this classical idea of this ephemeral force, right? They want to speak through us as human beings, and we should give them voice. And it doesn't have to be for money. It can just be for personal satisfaction. So I'm you know, it makes me really happy that we're 4 artists talking together.
Okay. Okay, it's my turn. To Ben Affleck. How was your first experience on the set?
Whew. Rough, to be honest. Fear, not fear, just no one told me that filmmaking was like a 14-hour day in the cold and the wet, and you would never take a break, and it was just going to be days on end of just exhaustion. I mean, at the end of Watchmen, I thought, I will never do that again. I just thought that was the roughest, longest, hardest I've worked ever. Of course, it was 6 months or 5 or 6 months there in the winter in Vancouver, which had then taken me out of the freelance market. The other, portraits, the phone rang and I couldn't take the job, and eventually that stops. And so all of a sudden I was a unit photographer. And of course I got better. Sucker Punch happened and I realized I needed to I rode a Vespa from New York to Vancouver before that job, just to kind of fill myself with my adventures and my photography, so that when I was going to give everything to the movie, it didn't drain me, because there is a little of that. And I've gotten better. So I've learned to pace myself, and I've learned to understand the rhythms of filmmaking, where maybe I don't need to shoot as much or shoot all the time. So my first time, it was, I made a lot of mistakes, and thank God the Snyders are forgiving and understanding of who they'd hired. I got invited back. I keep getting invited back. Knock on wood.
Okay, and I ask maybe a difficult question, but usually your photographs are the first image that the audience have on a movie. How is important this for you?
It's nerve-wracking, I tell you that. If you think to the first image of Superman, of course, that was well thought out and well constructed, and Zack was standing right behind me, right? I think there's some behind the scenes video, and I'm probably sweating and doing my best to essentially, render his vision. Similar with Wonder Woman's first look, but over the years, more comes. For Army of the Dead, I threw a few ideas at him, and he was like, "Okay, see ya." And I thought, oh, thank you. It's like I'm by myself. So there's some confidence there, and it worked out, of course. But in general, those first looks are a lot of fun, and it's really nice to do it with Zack and Deborah, because they've given that image a lot of thought. I've had the experience on some other movies where it's an afterthought and it's a panic and they're making compromises, and that's not as fun. But because of what I've learned from them, I'm always sort of on the lookout to make those images, right? To just know it's coming at some point. Let's get ahead of it, even if it's just me talking to myself. So when inevitably the studio is like, "Hey, do you have something? Because we need it tomorrow," and we have to get 17 approvals. I'm usually ready with something. But the first look is such a funny thing, I think Zack and Deborah have the right idea. Get ahead of it, have an idea, make it, spend the time and energy. It's because they know it's going to live for a year before the next glimpse of this film.
Yeah.
So I wish more folks were like them.
Yes, it's very important. Yeah.
Agree.
They're really collaborative artists.
They really are.
Yeah, it shows. We've had the chance to speak with besides Zack, we've had the chance to speak with Harry Lennox, and
Awesome.
It's awesome to see everyone who has worked with them share these nice stories about how encouraging and positive they are with the artists they work with. It's something that in Hollywood doesn't happen every time it appears, even from our perspective. So it's really beautiful to know that there are artists like them and artists like you that can collaborate and create such a positive environment on set.
Yeah, it's a cliche that it starts at the top, of course, and but I think it's right. I mean, it really does start with Zack and go from there. And it's fun to watch folks who haven't worked with him before kind of watch him watch them as he goes about describing a scene or doing something. He's jumping on the couches and he's acting out all the parts, and it's sort of this wonderful, like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this. And you can sort of be right. He's got a vision that's so well thought out that I don't think a lot of other professionals and other departments are used to that. So yeah, you can't help but want to collaborate, right? The guy is so energetic and so driven and so precise in his vision. Like, why would you ever think you can maybe outsmart him? and I don't mean that in a competitive way, right? But it inspires you to just here's a million different things that could possibly work. What do you like? And he'll know.
Well, starting from this, may I ask you, how did these collaborations with Zack start? And how did they grow? It's a question that many on the internet probably want to know. And also, if I can, there's a picture, if I'm not mistaken, of Zack, I think it was during Man of Steel, shooting a sunrise, I think, and Clark. And there's a picture of that was took by Larry Fong. And then there's a picture of you taking a picture of Larry Fong and Zack. How did that picture ever come up? Because it's incredible. And yeah.
Well, that's just fun. Look, I mean, obviously, so Zack and Larry went to university together, and that's where they formed their friendship. I went to university with Deborah Snyder, and that's where that friendship emerged. And so all of those things, right, brought us together. And okay, so my job is to make pictures of people making movies or taking pictures, right? So for me to take a picture of Larry taking a picture of Zack, it's just what's going to happen, Larry. I think that we were working together, and so it just became a fun thing. And I love a good meta moment,
Yeah.
I have a lot of pictures of Zack taking pictures. It's almost more fun. Right. Most recently, the Vanity Fair one, right, where he's on the ladder taking a picture of the Justice League, and I'm taking a picture of him taking
that picture is
beautiful,
so beautiful,
incredible.
Yeah, and that's when you're having a good day at work, that's what comes up. So, that was actually, I have another picture that's actually a lot of fun, but just out of frame on the actual take is the first assistant camera. He was focusing the camera, right? And so he was on the platform as well, right? So it's all the Justice League and him with his little device, and the camera's going across. And so I gave that to him, not long ago. The other member of the Justice League.
Amazing.
Well, I think in that picture that you were talking about could be the one with Zack and Larry, could be the picture on your curriculum, like what do you do for a job, and that's the picture. I photograph people photographing stuff.
I don't, it's not out there, but I have a similar one of when the Batmobile was first being photographed. So Zack was taking a picture of Batman and the Batmobile, and then Larry was taking a picture of him, and I have a picture of Larry and Zack. So it happens, right? It happens.
Hopefully one day we'll get to see it, because that stuff is giving the fans so much to talk about, to think, wow, how amazing that day was for all these people. And so yeah, if you want to share.
What I should do is more often is just how many people are involved in making a movie. I mean, it's shocking when you think about any given shot, no matter what it is. Even that was just a Batmobile reveal, right? There were probably 50 to 100 people involved, and that, I think that's not always understood. The collaborative nature you had mentioned of filmmaking, it truly is. It's something akin to like a little cathedral, a little storytelling cathedral. obviously with different materials, and it happens a little bit faster. But there is this idea that you commit to something, and that all of your expertise, or all of these people's expertise across a million different domains, come together to tell that story. It's testament to just the human spirit, that we value storytelling to such an extent that we would commit, millions of dollars and hundreds of hours, thousands and thousands of collective hours to a single story. Wow, wild. And so, and I'm just I'm actually not even telling the story, I'm just telling the story of the storytellers. And that, it's really fun. It's not lost on me. And I think some of that informs my work. That's why I like those meta moments. It just, I like revealing the artifice a little bit. My favorite behind the scenes photos, or photos from any movie, are ones where the microphone is in the shot, and I think there's one from Suicide Squad, and it just lines up beautifully, and the cameras and the mics and all that. That to me is more fun and interesting, and it's a nod to the fact that these are constructed stories, constructed by people like us.
Incredible. Okay, move away from the cinema for a moment, and you make and publish beautiful photos of your travels. And what is the place has remained in your heart? The place you have visited. This is special for you.
Wow, I guess. I guess I have fond memories. I hitchhiked from Bogota to Brooklyn in 1994 with like 20 rolls of film. So, or I was in South Africa and snuck my way into Mandela's inauguration in 1994, and I hitchhiked all around Southern Africa again with film, and made a few images. And I'm in my parents' house right now, but there's in one of the bedrooms, some of those pictures have been printed and they're on the wall. And so South Africa has a special place. Central America has a place. I'm bad at superlatives, say choosing a favorite. I love Mexico. I love, I mean, Berlin holds a special place just because I've made a few movies there, and summertime in Berlin is so enjoyable. Even in the middle of COVID last year, it was quite nice. They hadn't all lost their minds wearing masks outside yet. So that kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just came back from Rwanda, and Rwanda is a pretty interesting and special place. I've been to over 50 countries, so I couldn't tell you. And many, like I've been to Colombia 17 times. It starts to be a bit dizzying. I'll just I'll defer to the idea that I had mentioned earlier, that photography is my reason to adventure. And so I'm gonna just keep going. I hope I haven't made my best picture yet, and I haven't found my favorite place. It could be in a country I've visited before, but I haven't found that particular little corner. And in the end, much of photography it's the people more than the place, and it's the timing maybe more than anything. And so all those things are constantly swirling as potential factors in a glorious picture yet to be made.
Wow.
Can you hear the lawnmower? This is a suburban problem. Maybe should I close the window, or should I just let it be? The suburbs of New York are unbelievably awash in lawnmower sounds.
And okay, another, I hope not difficult question.
I like them hard. It's okay. That's fine.
If you have a possibility to shot a photo
where you haven't been, in a place where you haven't been, or a situation you haven't experienced yet.
I have. I have an idea to kind of run across North Africa on motorcycles. I think that'd be really fun. I think I had an idea just to go from like Lake Victoria and follow the Nile all the way to Alexandria in the Mediterranean, and then maybe just carry on to some Mediterranean islands for right. So I do like combining photography with adventure, and those images would mostly be portraits, right? People or some sort of integration of the human landscape, right? Whether it's a place we've wrecked or the quirky juxtapositions of the pyramids with something. I haven't been there, so I don't know. Yeah, it would be something like that. I even when I rode the Vespa across the United States, it's my country, and yet there was plenty of things, most of it I'd never seen before, and I experienced and met people that I wouldn't have met, obviously, flying over it. So, yeah, give me a camera and some sort of adventure, and if it has any alliteration in the title, like Bogota to Brooklyn or Cape Town to Cairo, I'm even more interested.
Well, let me ask you something about this book over here, the Watchman Portraits book you Titans book published. I a few years ago, I think, I already asked you this question, like I think 2 or 3 times, and you were always so polite to reply to me saying, I wish to, but I don't have the possibility to. But let me I cannot continue this interview if I can't ask you. I'm sorry, but is there any chance in the future for either for the DC properties you worked on, or maybe in the future for the next projects Zack is going to do, like or even Army of the Dead, or the King Arthur movie he was talking about, Last Photograph, Fountainhead, whenever Zack gets the chance to make it? Could there be a possible part 2 of this book about the other pictures you took?
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I would love it. Look, those decisions, especially Warner Brothers stuff, there's a whole department, right? There's a whole building, dedicated to the consumer products piece of it. They're the people making the deals with the toy makers. They're the people, getting the images on soda cans, right? So books are a little tricky because they're expensive to produce, and there's the demand is hard to gauge. And it's a kind of an opaque place anyway. No one knows a lot about publishing except publishers. So I can always hold out hope, but I don't think we'll see something until I just don't see it happening. So I'll just use Vero to leak them out over time. and at some point Warner Brothers is going to be like, can you please stop? But so far so good. Yeah, look, as I had mentioned, all of us who work on movies are on a contract that's called a work for hire, and we don't own the photographs. They are literally the property of the studio forever and throughout the universe, which is so. I could wish it, and maybe if I'm had sufficient clout in the world, I could propose it, on my 80th birthday to do a retrospective of my film work. But even then they'd be like, who are you?
If you, I hear studios like hashtags and viral campaigns. So if you want, we're open.
There we go. All back.
It froze for a bit.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I was talking.
The fact that I talked about hashtags and snipers came here and said,
"No, look out!
We can't talk about hashtags anymore."
They're watching us. Look, I think you should reserve those hashtags. Should be it's like Excalibur, you know. Just careful where you wield them. I would not wield them for my library of portraits. Just, you know, honestly, and I'm not saying that. It's just that it's better wielded for the epicness that is Zack Snyder's Justice League, and not for some portraits on pieces of cardboard. You know what I mean? I'll sneak him out over time, and while it won't be a book and it won't sit, you know, in your office, at least you know they exist, and you stay in touch with me on Vero, and little by little you'll see them. Yeah. As I find them on my phone, I'm like, ooh, I don't, yeah, why not? In 30 years. There you go. But I'm on the hashtag thing. I think that's a cautionary thing. Just let's not get too carried away. I think what happened with Justice League had as much to do with the injustice, but also the timing of a streaming service that needed content. So we shouldn't then just spin this into every possible movie we ever wanted to see a director's cut of, or every book we'd ever wished existed.
Yeah, that's right.
Flattering as that may be on my part, I just think we should let's save it. Let's use that power when it's sort of, I don't know, isn't there like a Dragon Ball Z where it sort of has to build up and then release?
Yeah.
Voltron, my wife has those references more than I do.
Okay, you and Christine come to Italy many times, right?
Yeah, we've been to Como a bunch, and then of course I worked in Wonder Woman, where we were in Matera and Vari and some other spots, and in Ravello. Yeah, we've had a nice little run over there, and it's and we have a friend here who's got an eye on property, so maybe we'll be over even more. We'll see.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. I mean, Italy is so amazing because it's, as an American, you kind of lose sight. Everything's kind of homogenous and the same, and Italy, just because of its history, is so rich. Each little town and each part of Italy is so distinct and special. So I look forward to learning more about it and spending more time there.
No, you have to come here in Piemonte.
I'm ready. Let's go. I'm ready.
Come here.
Come here. We have the good red wine here.
All right. All right.
I'm right, Max.
Yeah. I can't disagree. It's absolutely, and there's a place called Lange that's like hills, not quite mountains, but hills that grow to become mountains more in the south and part of Piedmont. And it's I think you'd like it. It's a very very interesting place, and also the wine. So either you like the ambience, or after the wine you like it anyways.
That's hilarious. Well, look, you know, as a Vespa guy, I think that's kind of one of the dreams, you know, to maybe rent a Vespa and go from toe to Austria or something. We'll see. We'll see. I'm one of the great pleasures of being a unit photographer, and could make you nervous on some front, is that work is not full time, right? So you work on a project for 4 months, and then I don't know when I'm going to work again, and you generally finish the project with some savings, and then you use that savings to go on some adventures. So a little Vespa tour through Italy. Let's make it happen.
It would be amazing.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys know. I'll let you know.
Yeah. We are here. And to come back to your work and photography, how do you face the post-production of your photographs? You do the post-production.
Yeah, so an image, I'm trying to think, like there was most of the posters are not done by me, or no, all of the posters are not done by me. I shoot them rather simply, usually on gray or white or simple backgrounds, and just give a general quality of light for the Photoshop wizards in Los Angeles to do their thing, right? But then on those some of the other stuff, I'm trying to think. There was a first look of Batman, just that profile shot where there's like even a little bit of sweat on his lip, on Ben's lip. That was unretouched, pure, just me in Lightroom. So my own work I generally don't bring into Photoshop. I just use Adobe Lightroom, manage it, give it a little love. What I call, a simple, well, crush the blacks or do something along those lines, but nothing very sophisticated. So those are the sort of two schools. Okay, I like to keep the images fairly clean. That first look of Wonder Woman 1984 with the yellow background and stuff.
Yeah.
That was just made in the hotel we were shooting in, at the Watergate Hotel. I put a piece of tape over a light that was above her just to cover it, so it wasn't so toppy, and it was daytime, and so the light was coming in throughout the space, and made the picture with a 85mm lens, wide open, blurred the background. I mean, she's Wonder Woman. She looked awesome. And off it went, first look. So it can run the gamut, of a more involved, because obviously the Wonder Woman 1984 posters are these extravagant, buzzy things. Though the reflections on the neon are real, or on the armor, because we used colored neons when we shot those. So it was this combination, right, of taking what they had and then really running with it. Again, those are the Photoshop wizards and the art directors of the vendor of those firms in Los Angeles are spectacular. And it's unfair that no one knows their names, really. It's all sort of inside baseball, or it's insider info.
Thank you.
All right.
About, if I can, about the future of your work, your collaborations. We're about to witness Army of the Dead. Have you seen it? By any chance?
Nope.
Not yet.
No, I haven't seen it.
Well, Army is coming, and so is the Art of a Movie from Army of the Dead, with, I imagine, a lot of your pictures. And Zack is getting busy. We know he's getting to do Last Photograph. I think he said this year already, and he spoke with us about an idea he had about the King Arthur project, and also he has many projects. We know. Are you going to collaborate with him on the Last Photograph and in these next movies?
So I'm 51 years old. I'm all I want to do is work for Zack. And then the rest of the time I want to just be in Mexico and spending time with my wife, and I'll be the official photographer of Christine Caban Jewelry, and I'll be very happy. How's that? So yeah, I will move my schedule around for the Snyders for the rest of my life. I think I don't see why I wouldn't, because they're friends. They're so enjoyable and talented to work around, So yeah, my hope is that we can carry on with this collaboration. And I really, that's generous to call it that. I am very much in service to them. They don't need me there. I'm not making the movie. What I just try and do is honor all the people that are part of that process through my photography, and working with them is just a ton of fun. So I'm going to see them both fairly soon, and I'm going to get there's going to be an advanced screening of Army that we got invited to. So It's going to be a fun little weekend coming up.
Can't wait to hear your thoughts on the movie.
No, I'm going to stay quiet.
Damn
I already
it.
know. I already, because I mean, look, I already know it's going to be a ton of fun, right? I know that, I know what happens. But it's just fun to see. Even I was in Prague, late last year, and I got to see a rough cut of the trailer that's now out. And it was just so good. Like, it was so fun, and it was everything I would have expected from when we were making the movie. So the actual movie is just going to be awesome. It's so fun. And again, it was such a great experience, right? That was the first movie Zack had made since Justice League, and he was the director of photography, the operator.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just it was. Again, not since I had my little camcorder with my buddies in the backyard. There was that same sort of energy and enthusiasm and just like freedom and competence, and to know you had all the resources in the world and you had all the skills in the world. It was just so fun to watch and to witness.
Were you in Prague for the Army of the Dead prequel? Oh, amazing! Even more pictures coming. So yeah, we're happy.
Yeah, that was just a poster shoot, to be fair. So I wasn't the unit photographer, but it was, it was nice of them to invite me out to make the poster stuff. It's always funny too, because like I shot the poster for Suicide Squad, and you think almost anybody could have made that. It was mostly drawings. So you never know, because it's a nice gig, but you're not sure what's going to become of your pictures. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was Suicide Squad. Yeah, there was that poster with all of them.
All
standing.
Yeah,
stuff like that. How were you? You were planning.
No, I don't. All I know is they need a high angle shot. So I get on a ladder and I shoot them from above, right?
Oh.
And so that's a nice, easy, quick way to do it, and efficiently. You can even get 4 of them, and you can just spin around and make sure, and maybe have them move so the light is kind of the same for everybody. Or you want to give the designers options later, so they can pick and choose and mix and match. So no, that once you give them a high angle, then the designers have it. If you don't give it to them, they don't have it. And you make, a poster shoot, you'll make thousands of pictures in an afternoon, depending on how many people, and with Army of the Dead, we had there was like 12 character posters, right? And we shot all of them in doing various things: high angle, low angle, walking, light behind, light in front, right? So it adds up.
We're going to ask Zack when he drops that USB he was talking about with the Snyder cut back then, and now with maybe the Green Lantern scene. We're going to ask to add also the behind the scene pictures you took and the poster stuff, so we have more. In a bathroom randomly, he didn't put it there.
That's funny. Look, I'm not so. I just use Vero, and also I don't. The director can get away with that stuff. I have to kind of be careful, because I'm just like a union guy. I'm just the guy hired for the movie. And I just happen to have all the pictures still on my hard drive. So when I'm sharing them, I'm always taking a little bit of a risk, whereas the director has, it all swirls around in some sort of PR frenzy. Whereas me, they're just like, oh, that's the guy who doesn't keep his hard drive closed. That's the guy who can't keep a secret. So I like a lot of time. Like, I'm sitting on all these Amazon pictures. I've been sharing all these Amazon images. But obviously I'm not sharing the ones of, Gal, because I don't know what, maybe she didn't want those out there. And that, those at that level, they make deals where you don't want to cross that line and be the guy who released an image that she didn't want the world to see. And I don't think she obviously is quite comfortable as Wonder Woman, and she's not that kind of person, but I know at that level, don't do it.
this means that she wanted the picture of her with the cowl out there, and this made me so happy.
Well, I think I just told this story to somebody, but you know, we were working on Wonder Woman 1984. It was Halloween. I overheard her ask, you know, thinking about a post for Halloween. I'm like, Gal, I have one. And that's how that happened.
Incredible.
That's just, look, a lot of life is like that, right? I mean, I happened to meet a young woman who became Deborah Snyder, right? It's not because I'm some sort of genius photographer. I got lucky freshman year of college, and a woman who, you know, 15 years later fell in love with Zack. That's life, right?
Yeah.
I happened to be in the room when Gal needed a Halloween post, and I had one of my favorite pictures ready to go. So, okay. Yeah. Life is funny.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. I have a funny question. It's not serious, but you know, Zack have a horrible secret. No, he put pineapple on pizza. You know.
The
you?
pineapple pizza problem.
And
I
you?
prefer my pineapples in al pastor tacos.
Ah, okay.
That is where I'm gonna. I won't weigh in on the pizza thing. Also, as a kid, I never liked pizza. So I came to pizza as an adult. I know I'm one of like this. I was a super. Can you imagine? I was such a fussy eater. I didn't even eat pizza. So I came to pizza as an adult, and I came in a rather traditional way. So I think I just like pineapples on al pastor tacos, and I'll go with that. How's that? So I don't have an opinion on pizza. I just know where I do like them.
That's a very political answer. On Twitter, people will treat this as you know, a declaration of war avoided.
I think that we, as a culture, it's funny because we are overly obsessed about what everybody else puts in their mouth, right? And like, that's not anyone's problem except them.
It's
right.
It's this
and
weird culture.
That's like sexual orientation. That's like the paleo diet and the vegans and all the like. Enough. Once it crosses right here, not your problem. So that's where I land. I'm like, my body, my pizza, my pineapple. That's a good one.
Well, I'll ask you one last question before, you know, we'll let you enjoy your. What time is it? It's afternoon.
It's 4 in the afternoon here in New
4 in
York.
the afternoon. Yeah, here it's 10 p.m.
Nice.
So
Yeah. Late.
Nice. We go to bed now.
I wanted to ask you something. Zack, in the interview we did with him, showed us his lens, the lens that he used for Army. I think it was called the Virgin.
Mm-hmm.
And in another interview, we saw him with Valkyrie.
And there was the violence.
Violence? Yeah. I'm noticing a trend.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to use them? Because you were talking about, you know, not using so much, you know, the usage of bokeh in your picture is very calculated, and those are quite different, maybe.
Yeah,
so
they are. So no, I didn't get to use those specifically because they were modified for the Red camera, right? And so I was shooting my still cameras. What I did get to use is he had one that was modified for like his Leica or something, and I just had an adapter so I could make my Sony take the Leica lens. And so that was the 4th camera I carried on set, and so I would use it, and it was really messy. The Canon Dream lenses that they were modifying, it was essentially the Canon Dream lens, but and I'm not super well versed in that space, but they don't all, there's a lot of irregularities through those lenses. And so the one I had was pretty messy and fun and impossible, really. I mean, to focus manually and with a 0.95 aperture. Yeah, I mean, I even changed the way I worked for that film because there were no lights being used. When we'd go into a place, lights would get turned off by the gaffer to establish the quality of light in the room. And so I was shooting fixed lenses. At the time, the fastest available to me were 1.4, without getting nerdy, but just really skinny, really fast lenses. And I loved it. I cared. That's how I went on to shoot Sweet Girl for Netflix. That's going to be out later with Jason Momoa. Yeah. But it was really a fun way to shoot, and I will probably always shoot like that. Certainly with Zack, because you have to. Because I think he's pretty committed at this point. And we share that aesthetic. I love that bouquet. I love a shallow depth of field. Yeah. I just think it's more photogenic. I think that's really, the lens and the photograph has its own vernacular, and I think it is best expressed through the lens. So we're in alignment on that, and it's nice. It's nice to be kind of sharing that aesthetic and finding the same things beautiful.
Wow.
Well,
just a second.
Yeah.
And Clay, I want to show you a photo. Give me a second that I go to take it.
Okay. Okay, no problem. And the lawnmower noises, can you hear those? Is that a pain or is that all right?
No.
It's in the distance? Okay. It is amazing the amount of fossil fuels dedicated to just keeping a lawn.
Yeah. Those half centimeter is too much to bear, so.
Yeah. It's expensive out here, I think. I grew up out here in the suburbs, but I like New York City these days. I'm a city guy.
Yeah. It's such a different. I went to New York when I was younger, and it's such a different world compared to anything in Italy. Like, even when you go in the biggest, most busy city in Italy, it's nothing compared to what a crossroad in New York City is.
It's really remarkable, and we're funny creatures, humans, huh? I like it. I like that there's variety. I think you don't need another New York anywhere else, so that's okay. Yeah, and it isn't for everybody. I understand that. I just like the efficiencies. I want to go through my whole life never owning a car, so it's helping me do that. So what do you got there? Well, that looked cool. What was that?
I'm here. What do you think about?
You teased us with.
What do you think about this photo?
It's like Stephen Shore or something. What is that?
It's Kyoto.
Kyoto, yeah, but whose book is whose work is that? Looks kind of Stephen Shore-y. Who I like.
I make this photo.
You made it. Yeah. Nice. Well, you should look at Stephen Shore's work. It's very simple. It's very calculated.
I didn't even know he was this good at photographing stuff.
Very subtle, right? And it doesn't seem to be about a lot, right? And yet it's quite pleasant in that it's fitting across compositionally. It's pleasant. Do you know what I mean? No radical angles or anything like that. So yeah, look, you're and also the time of day, right? The noonday light can be hard because it doesn't often model the landscape the way you might want to. So anyway, that feels very, as I say, Stephen Shore. You have to look up Stephen Shore's work and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Will do. Well, Clay, thank you so much for everything, for this time you've given us, for the answer, for the jokes, all the stuff that you shared with us. it was amazing. And also thank you for all the entertainment and art you shared with us all these years, and hopefully you'll share on Vero if you ever get a chance to share that Zack Snyder shooting Larry Fong shooting Zack Snyder shooting Ben Affleck. We'd love to see that. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, gentlemen, and I look forward to a day when our interactions are in person. Maybe on my Vespa trip or in New York, or who knows.
We asked Zack for if maybe in the future there can be a Snyder Con here in Europe. So perhaps that day, if you want to join him as well, it would be awesome.
Well, timing is everything, gentlemen. Yeah. So you never know.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, but either way, it was really enjoyable, and I wish you guys the best in your podcast efforts, but also in your own creative pursuits.
Thank you.
Yeah. Consider me a resource out there. Don't be shy. Let's connect on Vero, because I know that we're not connected, but once we're connected,
thank you.
Once we're connected, then we can just chat inside the app, and we could have even had this whole conversation on Vero. So, awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Have a nice day, and
all right.
Hope we see you soon.
All right. Good night, gentlemen.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.